Hello, everyone. Welcome to People of Poland Reacts. My name is Junhee. Welcome to this new channel. And fortunately or unfortunately, I had to create this new channel due to the algorithm of the People of Poland main page that's predominantly just going to be about podcasting. So this new channel is going to be my reaction and even my own editorials about my experience here in Poland. So our video we're going to be watching is by my man, Where's Wes, who is also an Asian American who also lives here in Poland. So I've been watching a lot of his videos over the years, and he's also kind of helped me, like, I should do this as well too. So without further ado, we're going to be watching Is Poland Safe for Asians? I hope so. And let's get into it.
Hey everyone, my name is Wes. I am an international lifestyle and relocation consultant. I've been living here in Krakow, Poland for the last year now, and I have to say my experience has been fantastic. However, because I've been here a short time, maybe I'm stuck in the honeymoon phase. That's why I interviewed some of my friends who have been living here for a long time. Today we're going to find out the question, what is it like being Asian in Poland?
Let's go.
I'm Sonia. That's my Polish nickname. I am originally from Korea till I was like around 6. And then I moved to Poland because of my father's job.
Call me Shane. I have a small YouTube channel.
How long have you been here in Poland?
3 years now.
You've been here for 4.5 years already.
Yeah.
Your Polish is quite good. How long did it take you to get to B1?
Professionally with my teacher around 2 years, I will say.
There's hope for me, because help me Poland, help me Polish people, because I really want to learn your language. It's very hard. It's very difficult.
But I do protest more with my Polish friends. I would say nowadays, if you can speak Polish, the older generation is gonna treat you like better.
They kind of like threw me into like kindergarten. I was like 6. I remember kids being like really sweet and supportive. Funny thing is that my teacher from kindergarten once called my parents because they're like, this child is like not listening to me, like, because in Poland, no is nie, but in Korean, ne is yes.
They super surprised.
Yeah, that's very true. A little bit about my experience with Korean. Like in the States, the word nega. Nega. So I'm sure if you hear the word nega, it may sound a little funny, a little spicy. And so I'm walking around and I'm on the phone and I don't remember what I was talking about, but I do remember this situation that happened. I was like, nega. And I had these black folks say, excuse me. I'm like, what? Like I was really confused because again, they heard something that wasn't what it was meant to sound, if that makes sense. And I had explained to them like, oh, right. No. I wasn't using the N-word. I was saying nega means hi. Korean. I had to show them like on Google. I had to show them just to prove it to myself. So it's interesting how some words sound very similar. And because of the similarities, it can either have a very negative connotation that, with a sound behind it, or funny. For example, my wife will always tell me about how there are certain funny words with Czech and with Polish, and some Polish words or some Czech words that may, sound normal to either Czech people or Polish people would be something that's naughty or dirty or even a swear word. So it's really interesting how language works like that. But again, nega means hi, and not the N-word. So for the record.
Surprised seeing an Asian speak Polish, or there's enough of us now that...
I think that's enough of us, so they won't be surprised, but they still will be happy to see that.
Yeah, okay. Every time I go to the market or something, they always speak to me in Polish first.
You just assume you can speak Polish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cute.
Sometimes I get that where people talk to me in Polish first. Maybe they don't speak English, or, I will like them to assume that I know Polish, and shame on me for not.
How disappointing.
But yeah, a lot of Polish people, they tend to speak Polish first. It's kind of a mixed bag for me.
So my time here has been extremely positive, and I'm not saying that they treat me like a celebrity or anything. We get treated better here than we do in the West in a lot of ways, and I think the main difference is that here we're seen more as an equal, because in the US I always felt like we were more tolerated than actually seen as an equal. And I think this applies a lot more to Asian men than it does to Asian women, because Asian women tend to get fetishized a lot more in the West. I would say in general Asians get treated very well in Poland. We have a long shared history together. There's a lot of white Europeans in Asian countries countries, and there's a lot of Asian and European countries. From what I can see, Poland tends to be very weary of outsiders because of their history. They've been invaded so many times. So I think they see outsiders as like invaders or allies. I think Asians exist in a very unique spot because they've had a large Vietnamese community here for a very long time. I think they migrated around the 1950s or the 60s. Poland also has a strong relationship with Japan. There's a lot of Korean and Chinese companies in a place like Warsaw and Wrocław as well. And I'm sure in the beginning, like most countries in the world, there were some growing pains. Asians generally have a very good reputation here because we come, we bring good food, we generally don't cause any problems, and people see us as hardworking, which are things that Polish people value as well.
Have you had any?
Yeah, I mean, my wife's Polish. I'm sure some of you know. And, for me, I'm a guest in Poland, and I definitely want to contribute and help perpetuate Poland's success. In fact, recently I just read that Poland has the #1 GDP in the EU. It's the fastest, largest growing economy in Europe. So kudos for Poland for that. But yeah, I mean, like Wes was saying, in the States, yeah, we are tolerated, but we're not treated equals. And I think because maybe a lot of Western people, like specifically in America, may look at Asian men as weak or frail, and maybe because we're shorter, maybe because a lot of us have that stereotype that we're nerdy and we wear glasses and
That was 2 weeks ago.
and unfortunately those stereotypes has made Asian men look weak. And it's very frustrating because we're not. A lot of Asian culture are warrior based, like in the Edo era of Japan, even like in Chinese history, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, the Filipinos. A lot of Asian cultures, I would say all, have a history of brutality. Right? Look at Genghis Khan, who conquered even more than Alexander the Great. So, unfortunately, Asian people have this stereotype of being nerdy, and it's perpetuated throughout Americans' culture. If you look at or watch like the 1950s, 1960s, how we're portrayed, it's awful. For me, living here in Poland, like Wes was saying, we're not looked really like that, and we're looked at equals. And I think Polish people, as long as you contribute and you try to become more, I guess, ingrained within the Polish culture, then Polish people respect that more, and they look at you as equals, like, oh, you're contributing, you're helping to Poland, and so we're going to treat you like you're a brother, you're a family, you're one of us. And that's something, as far as my experience, that's what I've noticed.
Any experiences with racism here?
I wouldn't say so. I would say a couple instances where I was looking for an apartment. I did encounter owners, landlords, who didn't want to rent the apartment out to anybody except for Polish. I think that's not really a racist thing. I think that's more of a nationalist
thing. That's what I've said in my channel too, actually.
Yeah, because some Polish will right out refuse to rent apartments to Ukrainians as well.
Polish
I think, as you can see, we tend to be very pragmatic. I'm not saying every Asian person, but at least the like these two gentlemen. If you go to Japan and you want to rent a flat with a Japanese landlord, a lot of times they won't rent out because you're a foreigner, a gaijin, I believe it's what it's called.
Understand that? Gaijin.
Even though I look like this, I could speak Japanese like perfectly, but if they know based upon my name, Junhee, I'm not Japanese, I will still most likely not be able to get the flat because I'm not Japanese. I wasn't born in Japan. And I don't want to marginalize Japan, but it's just what I've heard and what other people have told me, that Japan is a very homogenized country and they look at their culture very intimately, very seriously. And if you're not from there, you're kind of on the outside.
It has come to my attention that there is a Chinese among us. Rest assured, he will be found. Security is launching a full-scale investigation into the genealogy records of every single one of our employees. This man will be found, and there will be dire consequences.
Too bad about that Chinese guy, huh?
So yeah, there are definitely similarities with that as well too. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a negative thing. It's just that's just how it is sometimes. And I think, again, pragmatism is very important. So just understanding that it's not based out of racism. It's just based out of because, you know, they don't know who you are. You may destroy the flat. They prefer Polish people because it's easier to communicate. And so there are a lot of reasons. And I don't think jumping to conclusions like races should be the first thing we should be thinking of.
People, they go into like two sections. They just are curious and they're ignorant. Yeah, there is racism. They just don't think like some of the jokes are like as harmful as like we take it.
I had maybe 3 times like a big racism about myself. Let's rethink about the first time. That's what the second day when in Poland. I just done my grocery shopping. I was walking towards my dorm, and on the way there's 2 Polish men, I think mid 40-ish.
Oh, wow.
So they were just like, that's in Polish, but it's direct translated, gonna be go back to your country, direct on your face, street on your face.
Okay, I see. I've talked to other Asians too, and they've said that they've also had like 1 or 2 racist experiences.
Yeah, like very bad, very bad.
Yes, but it's not indicative of the whole
It's
entire
not really
Polish.
happen.
Yeah.
It's not.
A lot of people say,
You know, I've never actually had any really experience with racism here in Poland. I get stared at a lot because I'm 185 centimeters tall, which is equivalent to about 6'1" for our American audience. And, you know, I'm not a small person because I do put in the time at the gym, but maybe that's the reason. I don't know. But yeah, I've never really had any sort of negative experience. I'm sure people have talked, you know, behind my back or maybe whispered to their friends or something, you know, look at that Chan. I have no idea. But I've never had something directly, you know, affect me or directly where I felt like, okay, this person is clearly racist, because I don't use that term lightly. And I think ignorance or misunderstanding or even curiosity is very different than, I guess, racism. I think what people think as racism sometimes, and I'm not necessarily saying this is what they think, I'm just saying based upon my own personal experience and dealing with this in America, people assume that it's racist when it could be just out of ignorance, out of curiosity, or, you know, they just don't know. And so instead of labeling someone, oh, you're a racist, because that's a very serious word in my opinion. So I think context is very important. But yeah, here in Poland, I've never experienced anything at all that I felt that was out of racism, malice, or hate.
when you go to the clubs and you're ethnic, some bouncers will just outright refuse to let you in. But in my cases, none of that has happened. We're all very friendly. Sometimes they even let me in first rather than other people.
Oh, nice.
I haven't encountered any sort of real racism.
Blatant
here.
racism.
I cannot recall being treated hostile, but a lot of my Asian guy friends say that it's very different because I'm a girl. They were attacked, they were like harassed on the street.
In the smaller cities or in Krakow?
Krakow, they got like pepper sprayed, they got beat up. It was like this year or last year.
Wow.
The other 2
Like I said, I've never seen that. I've never personally experienced it. Again, we don't know the context of that as well too. So who knows what the whole situation is. But if that's actually happened, that's clearly messed up, and no one should ever feel as if they should be in danger or have people attack you based upon how you look or what you believe in. I think the world, we should be accepting to most things, but just because if you look different, right? Maybe we shouldn't be attacked for that. I'm just saying. But like I mentioned, I personally never experienced it, and who knows, maybe I will one day, and that'll be a crazy day because of course I'm going to be sharing that with you guys.
You shall!
But as of today, I've never experienced any sort of racism nor attacks as well too.
that's happened in the shopping mall. You know, people will do this to Asians because they're like a middle finger.
What she's meaning is, you know, slant eyes. And yeah, I got that. Not here in Poland, but in other places. You know, even Asian people, or there was a person who did that to me. I'm like, bro, we literally have the same eyes, dude. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? But yeah, it's a thing. And do I take offense of it? No, not really, because, you know, I have pretty eyes because I get it from my mama. So shout outs to my mom.
Towards you, suddenly you're just walking around, you're not even make any eye contact with them. But they just did that out of any reason.
No way. From a younger crowd or older crowd normally?
Middle age, like 40-ish, that's more. Because
Wow,
younger generations, they just judge everyone equally.
Yeah.
Who's in their 40s that does slant eyes to other people? That's wild. What the hell's wrong with you if you actually do that? Yeah. What? Makes no sense. Come on, guys. You're in your 40s. Time to grow up. I mean, play video games and buy action figures, but, you know, grow up in some ways. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
I personally have not faced a racist situation yet. There are maybe some people who may have said stuff when I'm walking around, but since I don't really speak Polish yet, I can't attribute anything to malice. And I also know that Polish people have a very dark sense of humor. So sometimes they'll make jokes that aren't intended to be offensive, but maybe we'll take it a certain way. It's very common to see Polish-Asian relationships. Usually it's a guy that's Asian with a Polish girl, but you can see the opposite as well. And it's been like this for a couple of generations already. Because if you see a lot of the Asian restaurants, it's usually an Asian man with a Polish girl, and then they have kids. There are Viet Poles, there are Chinese Poles, there are Korean Poles.
Culture is so different between like Polish men and Korean men. My dad did say that he would prefer me to marry a Korean man. I feel like it would be easier in a lot of senses, you know, like with no language barrier, like they can understand each other, they understand like the tradition and everything. But like he wouldn't mind me marrying a white.
So tell me what it was like when you were dating that Polish.
You know, I think that the world's changing, and you know, I understand why some people like to keep, I guess, the race together, because you're looking at the identity of your people, right? And you want to make sure that your identity, your culture, your country will last, right? But I think where the world's going is we're becoming less homogenized and more mingling with each other, especially through technology, especially through, you know, social media and stuff like that. It makes it very easy to connect with anyone and everyone around the world. And due to that, when people have commonality, commonality can then create romance. That's what happened with my wife and myself, because my wife, again, is Polish and I'm a Korean American. So it made it easy for us to communicate due to technology, and we made a really strong foundation due to, you know, the way we think, our likeness, what we value. So those things really brought us together, where we fell in love, and now we're married. So, you know, I definitely think the world's changing, and but I totally get it, where, you know, we want to make sure we keep our legacy, our identity, our country. I get that 100%. But at the same time, things will change. But I don't think that's going to absolutely change the entire world. I don't think that's going to change us where there won't be a Korea, or there won't be a Poland, or other countries that have stayed homogenized for a very long time. I will always think, at least for the, you know, for the future, for a while, we will stay Korean or Polish or any other country that's been homogenized until the aliens come.
Welcome to Earth.
Then, you know, anything's up for grabs at that time. So shout out CET.
You guys are just talking.
We're just talking, we're not dating. The reason why we started conversation between us, it was because they are really curious about Asian girls.
You think it was fetishization?
Let's see it that way.
Yeah, do you think it's a problem or no?
No, it's not a problem.
I don't think it's a problem
They're
either.
nice. They're really nice person.
Yeah.
And they just be curious about you. They will ask you a lot of different questions from different perspectives. Like, oh, are you guys really eat dogs?
Yes. I don't think it's an issue either, you know, but I'm a guy, so it's different. Because when girls fetish...
Some of you guys eat dogs. I mean, I just had it last night. It's delicious, right? Just put a little barbecue sauce, a little salt and pepper on that pup. Delicious. You should come over and try it. I promise. It'll blow your mind.
Besides me, I'm like, ooh, yay, attention.
Yellow fever?
The way I see it is like everybody has a type, right? So if Asian girls are your preference, as long as they're respectful, who cares?
Totally.
The thing is, I've only ever dated Polish men because I grew up here. There is not a lot of choices. Like, to tell you the truth, like even if I wanted to date like an Asian or Hispanic or black man, I cannot find.
Do you think that the men here fetishize you?
I feel like it's not much different than other countries. In every single country, there are like men who fetishize like some race.
Mostly Asian, let's be honest, right? White men love Asian women.
That may be the case. I feel like because I speak Polish and I know the culture, I just like stay away from those kind of men. For me, that's a big ick. I hate when guys fetishize Asian girls. I feel like it's more common for girls, white girls, to fetishize Asian men.
In Poland, right?
Yeah.
Is that true? Because if that's true, I'm telling you, Asian guys, we have a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I don't know because, like I said, I'm married. And so I don't really look, if women are staring at me or if they find me attractive. I try to look as least attractive as I possibly can. That's why I got chubby. But all seriousness, I really don't know. I don't care because I am married. But if that's the truth, if Polish women find Asian men attractive, that's great. That's wonderful because I think a lot of Asian men, especially in the States, we don't get the recognition, right? As I mentioned before, we're kind of looked as maybe a weak or inferior as a man compared to, let's say Americans, both black and white. And so it makes it very difficult for Asian men to compete with maybe American women in the States. Now, to be honest, I never had that, issue because I've dated, all sorts of women from Asian to white to Hispanic. I even dated a black woman for a moment. And so I don't really look at, race as an issue because ultimately at the end of the day, they're really going to fall for who you are as a person and not necessarily what your race is or how you look. Maybe the looks are important in the beginning for sure, but long-lasting relationships, really depend on, are you compatible? Are you able to have fun with each other and be comfortable with one another? So are you cool with who you are? And are they cool with who you are and vice versa?
The discrimination is a lot less in dating, almost none. It's a level playing field where I can fully enjoy dating as a normal guy.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, actually. It's really interesting, like walking around and seeing Slavic girls in general checking me out. I didn't really get that in the US as much.
All of my guy friends, they are just like soaking up the attention. They love it. There's, in my opinion, different being appreciating a culture and just like fetishizing it.
I think the Asian woman experience in the US is way different than the Asian man experience. I think Asian women get treated well by every race because they can freely date outside of their race. But I think Asian men have been constantly seen as inferior in the West for a very long time.
Exactly.
I think you can see this in a lot of Western European countries, but for some reason, Poland and towards Russia, so like Ukraine, Belarus, all of these countries are so familiar with Asian people because we have such a long-standing history. And even a lot of the Stan countries, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, they're all people that look like me, but they all speak Russian. They have a lot of Russian cultures. A lot of attraction is based on exposure, and because we've been in close proximity for a very long time, we see each other more as allies rather than enemies.
I've dated.
Now, the only thing is like Asian people, have been in America for a very long time. You had the Chinese that went through, I believe, San Francisco and even Seattle when they started to build the railroad tracks. I mean, they even had Japanese concentration camps in World War II. So Asian people and Asian men have had that exposure in America for, in my opinion, for a long time. Maybe not as long as, Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan or Turkestan or any other stands, but for sure, Russia has Russians that look Asian, that look like me, like Russ. So yeah, maybe they had a longer history with, Asian looking people. But I also think like in America, there's always been Asians as well too. maybe not when it was founded, but for sure in the Industrial Revolution when they were building the train tracks and everything. So it's very difficult for Asian people or Asian men specifically to have this sort of identity where we are respected or even look, attractive to a lot of American women. I get that. I hear that a lot, or I heard that a lot from a lot of Asian friends of mine. But again, I think that there are so many people, and at the end of the day, as I mentioned, people are going to be, looking towards who you are as a person, because you could be, 185, chiseled, really good looking. You could have all the money in the world, but you can be a complete jerk. And yeah, you may get a lot of women, but your reputations will eventually precede you. And for me, I prefer quality over quantity. I want quality. I want the prime rib. I want the filet mignon. I don't want the bits, right? And if you're that type of bloke who wants to have those type of women who are superficial, look, by all means, have at it. But the quality is the one, because these type of people help me learn who I am, and hopefully I can help them learn who they are, and they challenge, they stimulate, they're able to make my quality of life better. So I think quality precedes quantity. And yeah, a lot of the quantity, a lot of them are gorgeous, 100%. But if you're vacuous or insipid, or you cannot keep up intellectually with someone like me, then yeah, I don't see value in that. So maybe I'm the exception to the norm, but that's just how I perceive it if I were to be dating.
Dated Belarusians, I've dated Polish, I've dated Ukrainians here. They're all very open to dating
Asian guys, right?
Haven't
Yeah.
experienced anything radical like in the US where they just outright say, I don't date Asians, or they totally ignore you, don't give you time of day. Most of them are very friendly. If you approach them, they'll smile. The worst case scenario, if they want to reject you, is probably they just say, no, I have a boyfriend or stuff like that. You don't get that super harsh rejection where they just brush you off completely, or give you the hand, or don't even acknowledge your existence. Those cases happen a lot in the US.
Do you think
Like I said, I've never had that experience. And I think sometimes we put blame on others and not put, more attention on ourselves. Let me give you an example. The whole thing with incels, right? And I just had this conversation this weekend with a friend of mine. And I think a lot of incel people, they put blame on women because they are not bringing value. And I think that's what's important. It's what's your value, right? Are you educated? And if you're not educated, then maybe learn some things. Are you able to think deeply? Are you able to be emotionally supportive? Are you able to, propel your life financially? So if maybe you're working a BS job where they're not paying you well, just minimum wage. Okay, fine. That's where your baseline is right now. How are you making your future better? And so I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think it goes the same thing. Like Asian men, sometimes we say, well, Western women don't find us attractive. But if you're not doing what other race of men are doing, right? Maybe going to the gym, maybe wearing clothes that look nice and attractive, like a nice Ralph Lauren suit. And if you can't afford it, then try to advance yourself financially through life. I'm not saying overnight, right? Having plans and planning out certain things and trying to make your life better and better and better daily, monthly, yearly, 5-year, 10-year, so on and so forth. This is at least the mindset I have, because I used to blame everyone but myself. And so now that my mind or the way I think has changed, my quality of life has actually gone up exponentially. So I think it's important to also put some sort of responsibility on ourselves as Asian men. And so if we know that women are more attractive to men who look more active, have more muscle tone, then put the time into the gym. If you're not tall, great, that's fine. Not every man's going to be tall, right? then have some other qualities that you can, show other people that you bring certain value. Now, I'm not meaning superficial, right? I'm not saying like be superficial, show like flash your Armani or your Versace, right? And say like I got all the money. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is surround yourself with high quality people and build those type of people and network in a circle around that. Because if you're around successful people, most likely you will become successful. If you surround yourself with people who are, attractive, mildly attractive, whatever, then, make friends, be funny, tell jokes, be intellectual, be well read, know finances, know history, know something that brings value where you become charming and charismatic. Being charismatic will elevate you as an individual, not necessarily in the dating world, but just in general, like in business, obviously in dating world, relationships building, trying to even sell things. Being charismatic will absolutely elevate your possibilities of not having it to then be able to get it. So again, maybe put also as Asian people, we also need to step up our own game and try to bring value to ourselves. Maybe that's a hot take on that. And if that is, and if you're Asian and you disagree, let me know in the comments because I'm genuinely curious how other people think.
Think Chinese culture, Polish culture are similar?
I would say it's pretty similar compared to other
Like
Western
Korean
European
culture as
There you
well,
go.
too.
Yes.
Yeah, for example, the family culture thing, how you treat other people from a more respectful way.
Would you say Polish people focus a lot on education?
Not as Chinese that much,
Yeah.
but Chinese is a bit like
Pretty
simple.
extreme, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally strictful.
In Korea, like studying is a core value to a lot of people. And in Poland, it's like not like that at all.
It depends on what
Go to America and you'll see night and day. If you think Poland has bad quote unquote education, go to the States. It's terrible. I'm not saying every single school in the States is bad. I mean, you have some people who go to public schools and they excel very well. But a lot of times, I don't think the public education in the States is great. And as far as Korea, I won't mention China because I don't know what it's like for China. But as a Korean, I think people value way too much on the education because when I ask Korean people to, critically think, they almost get offensive and they don't know how to actually give their own, I guess, opinion. It's a lot of it's I need you to memorize and then memorize this so then you can pass the test. But learning, I don't know. I don't know. I've never went to the school, but I've had some very interesting conversations as an American Korean talking to a Korean.
We are same, but different, but still same.
Where they don't question a lot of things. It is what it is. And I can go down on this rabbit hole with Korea. I won't because I think differently than a lot of Koreans from Korea do. But I definitely see that over, educating or, trying to have your kids excel. What I mean by that is when they wake up 9 a.m, they're at school. After school, they go to tutors. After tutors, they come home and they have like 3 to 4 hours of homework. And they come home maybe like around 10 p.m., do the homework, and then do it all over again the next day. That is a lot of work. And it's very mentally straining. And people will crack, right? And I think that's why in Korea, they have a very large or unalive rate in Korea. So, yeah, there's pros and cons for everything. But again, I think having a balance is the most important thing, at least for me.
what you compare it to. If you compare Chinese and Polish, of course, it's not the same.
No way.
But if you look on the grand scheme of the world,
Yeah.
I feel like it's actually quite similar.
I personally see a lot of culture similarities between Polish people and specifically like Chinese people. We are very hardworking. The way
Koreans
our
too.
general society is set up is very similar. Everybody's minding their own business. People will help you if they need to. It's generally very, very safe. Strong emphasis on family values, even though maybe in Asian countries it can be taken a little more to the extreme because the parent's opinion matters a lot more in Asian countries.
In the cultural sense of dating, it's very different because in Korea, the parents don't really meet the partners of their children if they're not very serious, like getting engaged, kind of serious. And in Poland, my ex-boyfriend's like families like welcomed me like very soon. We just got together. It was quite weird for me in a way because my parents, they never hated my ex-boyfriends. They were very open. He's just, you know, like my daughter's boyfriend. When I see my Polish friends, let's say like there's a family party and they take their boyfriends, their girlfriends, it's like very open. And in Korean culture, it's not as much. Politeness or like, you know, what you should do or shouldn't do, it's like very different in Korea and in Poland.
We also have very similar political roots, specifically China and a lot of former Soviet countries. I know Poland wasn't a part of the Soviet Union, but they were under Soviet control for a while. There's also a very strong nuclear family, and I actually see these values still pushed to this day here
100.
in Poland. And also something that's
Absolutely.
very different from Latin people or Arab people. People in the East tend to be a lot more emotionally cold. And it's a big difference because when I would date Latino women, yes, sex may be a lot more intense, it's a lot more passionate, but in the relationship, it's a more of an emotional roller coaster. Whereas I feel like the people here, Asian women and Slavic women, are a lot more emotionally balanced.
Which I like. I definitely like having, you know, because having extremes from both up and down, like he was mentioning, like that it's manic, right, in my opinion. And I don't want like extreme emotions. Let's be balanced and let's again being pragmatic, because when you date somebody has like these emotional roller coasters, it makes it very difficult like what to expect, or you know, and are they going to be in a good mood today, are they going to be in a bad mood today, and you don't know. So it's like a Russian roulette with the emotions. So with Asian women, well, look, Asian women can also be crazy. Let's be honest, right? But at least with my wife and like what he was saying, I think with Polish women, as far as with my wife, she's a very balanced person, and she's more grounded to earth. Where I tend to kind of be more of a dreamer, and I'm willing to take more of a larger risk, especially with like business and stuff like that. But I like that because there's that certain balance, right? It's that yin and yang, and I definitely really appreciate that about my wife. And if other Polish women are like that, as she says that they are, I don't know, because I'm not with all Polish women. But yeah, I value that a lot for sure.
And they're a lot more stoic. And we all experience emotional damage from our parents.
Korean and
Truth.
Polish, they both drink alcohol quite well. In Korea, like you want something, we are going to drink. You're upset, we're going to drink.
Yeah.
But in Poland, like even if like people are religious, they don't mind getting a tattoo, which is quite surprising to me because I always just imagine like religious people, like especially don't like tattoos, piercings. But like in Poland, it's very open.
I don't know. That's weird because you go to the States. Maybe she's never been to the States. I have no idea. But a lot of people who are quote unquote religious have tattoos. I'm not. Maybe there. I think in Korea there's like a negative connotation with tattoos, especially I know in Japan for sure because it represents, you know, like the yakuzas. Like Joe Rogan was even saying when he visited Japan, they asked him to cover up his tattoos because again they do have that negative connotation of yakuza. Like even in Korea, if you have tattoos or a shaved head, it associates yourself with a gang or gangpae. And so, yeah, I can see why she may think like that. But, you know, if you go to like Western, a lot of people who are quote unquote, as I mentioned, religious have tattoos or have piercings or shaved heads. It's, for me, it just seems normal, but, you know, culture, right?
Something I've noticed is that here it seems that the women have tattoos more than the men do. And I think that applies to both Poland and Ukraine. I don't know if that's true countrywide, but that's an observation that I've made.
Hey, that's Wes' hot take on that. So comment below about that for Wes, not for me, because I don't know. I don't pay attention to that if I'm going to be completely honest. But let me know if that's true or not in the comments, because again, I'm genuinely curious.
If you guys want to watch another video,
All right. Well, that's Where's Wes. Is Poland safe for Asian people? Thank you so much for Where's Wes. If you haven't subscribed or liked his videos, I highly recommend that you subscribe to his videos, as he makes a lot of different videos. And I believe he just moved to Warsaw. So Wes, I'm Team Krakow. You're going to be Team Warsaw. So that's cool, man. And I wish you nothing but the best in Warsaw. And hopefully you're able to keep continuously building and making content. As a viewer who watches your stuff, really appreciate it. So thank you so much for your great videos, your great content, and also you being very, here's that word again, being pragmatic. So I do plan on having a new podcast out very soon, in the process of actually editing it. A lot to actually talk about. I will have another professor actually on soon as well too, as I think we're going to be doing a deep dive with more of, economics and even Poland's, I guess your politics, because I'm very uneducated when it comes to Poland's politics. I know you guys just had your first round of elections, which was very close. So all the best to Poland, honestly, and whoever Poland votes for, I wish your country and your president nothing but the best and success. And if you like this type of content, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And also, please hit that notification bell, as then you will get all the new content of People of Poland Reacts. So again, thank you so much for everyone who's watching this video. I really appreciate your views, and I really appreciate everyone commenting in the comments and us having a very respectful dialogue. I definitely really appreciate that, and because it really helps me learn more about Poland and Polish people. If you're interested of actually being a guest on People of Poland on the main channel, please contact me. All my information is in the description below. So thank you everyone once again. Thank you so much. And until next time, let's get into it.